Hi there, business owner. Do you want a better understanding of business finance, what your numbers actually mean, and stories of the highs and lows of business, where I'll be sharing my tips and tricks every week? Then you're in the right place. Welcome to the 3B'z podcast with Stephanie. Hello, hi there, welcome to the very first episode of the 3B'z podcast with Stephanie. I can't believe this is actually going out live. I don't know if you are the same as me, but as a business owner, I always find it really hard to keep a secret from my audience. Whether that's social media followers, email subscribers, or my one-to-one clients, when a big project like this comes along that I'm just so excited to share and I've been working on for such a long time, I find it so tough. So here it is in all its glory, and I am so excited for you to listen to it. This podcast has been created for busy business owners like you who want to understand more about the numbers on the balance sheet, love to learn, want to understand all the parts that make up a successful business, and to share the tips and tricks I've learned and the epic mistakes I've learned from along the way in short 15-minute weekly episodes. Time is precious and so valuable, so I want you to pop this on while you're walking the dog, doing the school run or commuting to the office. Let's master this together and build brilliant businesses. See where the name came from? I'll explain more about that in a future episode. A little about me. I'm Stephanie. My full title is Stephanie Marshall, MICB, PM.dip ICPA, and I'm a multi-award-winning certified bookkeeper and accountant and founder of ABCS UK. I started studying business at around 14 years of age and haven't ever stopped really. I just love to learn, and I truly believe that knowledge is power. I find business and personal development fascinating and soak up all the knowledge I can. If you're listening to this, then I'm guessing you're the same too. After over a decade working in industry in mainly financial roles, I decided during a pandemic of all times to start my own business to do things my way. I couldn't just help with the bookkeeping and accountancy side of things. I was becoming frustrated when I knew I could help businesses with so much more and help them to reach their goals even faster. And so, after honing my skills even further and building my experience, ABCS UK was born to provide whole business development services alongside the regulated compliance-based financial services, including elements such as adapting and implementing businesses' internal and external systems and processes. Seeing a business improve truly lights me up inside. I've been called a spreadsheet queen on more than one occasion, but I also love trying out and adopting new technologies to improve processes and efficiency levels across my own business and that of my clients too. I'm also human, believe it or not, and I really believe the power of communication is often lost in an ever-changing and developing world. This is why I created this podcast. Anyway, that's enough about me. I just wanted to give you a little background as to why I am an expert in all areas of business development and why this podcast is being recorded for business owners just like you. I want you to think of me as your new business bestie. Let's go on this journey together. Each week, I'm going to cover one, maybe two topics, as these episodes are short and I want to add as much value as possible without causing overwhelm. Happy new tax year! Launching this podcast today was not a happy accident. The 6th of April marks the first day of a new tax year. This week I wanted to cover what this may mean for you. The HMRC run their tax year from the 6th of April to the 5th of April each year. Now that includes income tax, benefits, and also if you receive a payslip on a payroll or run a PAYE scheme, this also runs on the same dates. So today is day one. Sole trader accounts by default run either the 6th of April to the 5th of April each year or the 1st of April to the 31st of March. That's not always the case, but that's by default how the years usually run for sole trader accounts. For private limited companies in the UK, this is usually the last date of the month of registration, but it can be changed. For example, ABCS UK Limited, which is my company, was registered on the 12th of November. So our financial year runs from the 1st of December to the 30th of November each year. Now is the perfect time to take stock, make a plan, Refresh and renew your energy for the next 365 days. Well, 366 technically, as 2024 is a leap year. If you didn't already know that, make a note. I love a fresh page in a notebook, and I have a strange connection with writing one dot. I'm going to be really honest, I'm a serial list maker. So go and get a notebook, go to the notes section in your phone, or even start an email to yourself. Make a note or a list of 3 things you really want to achieve this tax year over the next 366 days. And more importantly, check in on it regularly. It can be monthly or even quarterly. See where you are. Set a reminder in your phone. If you use a CRM software, add it to your workflows to review. It's so important to have a look at where you are and see how far on track, off track, on course you are to achieve the things you want to achieve. When you review your progress, always look at the next step you need to take to get closer to that particular goal, achievement, task. It can be a tiny baby step, like contacting a website designer to update your website, scheduling tomorrow's social media post if you've not booked creating, or booking that discovery call with that lead that showed an interest. Being a business owner is a roller coaster. There's highs and lows. And when you are high, you think it's going to go on forever. You've got this, you've nailed it. And when you're in a low, you think that's never going to end either. Sometimes it's important to reset and go again. If you're already on a high, how can we go even higher? Get to the very next step. What's the next achievement? When you review your achievements and those list of 3 things, it may be you've already reached 1 or 2. I love to put a tick next to it or cross it out and add another one. So there's always 3 things I'm striving towards at any one time. Jargon disclaimer. You will hear me use all types of jargon in these podcasts, but please do not be alarmed. I will always endeavour to explain these clearly so the next time you hear that word, you will understand what the word or phrase actually means. That way, at the end of these 15 minutes, if you take away nothing else from today's episode, you will understand a word or phrase of jargon, so next time you see it splashed across social media or on a website or in the news, you will understand its meaning. Back to the episode. Earlier I mentioned sole traders and private limited companies. There are different business types in the UK. I'll mainly be covering sole traders and private limited companies in this podcast, but there are others available such as partnerships. These are similar to sole traders, except they typically have between 2 and 20 partners. There's usually an added risk as the partnership liabilities as a whole is split between each partner, as per the partnership agreement, which would be being compiled when the partnership is formed. If there's no agreement, it's usually split evenly. This occurs even if you did not incur that debt or have any knowledge of the purchase. Liabilities means debts or bills the business owes regardless of your business type, and the term liabilities is also often used in personal finance. A sole trader is an individual who decides to start a business. This is an extension of the person who is running the business. A sole trader can be VAT registered, have staff and run a payroll PAYE scheme. A sole trader business can be large or small. It's just that the business is an extension of the owner and for tax purposes is viewed as such. It's important to note that whether small or large, a sole trader's business is still a business and should be treated as such. I often hear, oh, it's just a side hustle, or I only do it on the weekends, it's just something little. And if you're listening to this podcast, I believe you have goals and ambition, which requires CEO thinking. We all start at 0. A private limited company is something which is registered with Companies House and the HMRC, has director or directors, and is a separate entity from the owners of the business. You can still be VAT registered, have staff and run a payroll PAYE scheme, and can be large or small. It's just that for tax purposes, the private limited company is seen as a separate business to the owner or directors. This means that the business will be eligible for corporation tax and the director will be eligible or liable for income tax on the funds and the money that they take from the private limited company. Business types can be changed and you do not have to go through a certain hierarchy or set structure to get from sole trader to private limited company. You would look at the pros and cons and decide which is the best business type for your business. And maybe when you review those achievements quarterly, annually, you will check to see if the type of business you currently have is still working for you. It's worth noting that if you plan to work business to business or B2B and have contracts with big companies, I've worked with John Lewis, Waitrose and Rendell and Rittner, for example, and they use software such as Oracle or Coupa for purchase order management and invoicing, and it can be tricky to get set up on them as a sole trader. It's not impossible, but it's one of those things that can be more tricky, and you do not want any reason for customers to delay paying you for the services or products you provide. The biggest difference for me between a sole trader and a private limited company business type is liability. Sole traders have unlimited liability, and this means that should the worst happen and you are taken to court, your personal assets can be taken in the settlement. Now that can be your house or your car or anything you own, as a sole trader business is an extension of the individual. For private limited companies, they have limited liability, and that means that should you be taken to court or sued and the worst happens, they can take the business assets, office, equipment, vehicles like vans, but they can't take your personal assets. So they can't take your house or your car. Another difference is that the accounting processes and legislations and obligations are very different from a private limited company and a sole trader, and that's something that I will probably cover in a later episode. Top tip of the week. Each week I'm going to share one top tip that's really quick and easy for you to implement into your business. This week it's separate bank accounts. If you're a UK limited company, it's a legal requirement for you to have a separate business account from your personal finances, but it's also such a good idea for sole traders. If you keep all your business transactions in one place rather than having multiple accounts to reconcile, your bookkeeping fees can be reduced. I'll cover much more about bookkeeping and accountancy in future episodes, as these are only going to be 15 minutes long. I can only cover so much. I mean, I'm northern, so I do talk pretty fast, but still, there's limits to what I can cover in 15 minutes. 15 minutes really does fly, doesn't it? Next week, I'll be covering allowable business expenses, what they are, why it's important to claim all the expenses you can, as well as the 3 most common forgotten expenses that I see in business. If you need specialised help or have a question, you can send me a DM on Instagram at abcs.uk, Facebook abcsuk, and Twitter abcs_UK. I did say this podcast will be bookkeeping mixed with business school, so I'm setting you some homework. As your business bestie, this is optional, but it's important to keep each other accountable. Did you know you're keeping me accountable to make more episodes just by listening to this and doing the homework? This week's homework is to let me know what 3 things you want to achieve this tax year. I'd really love to know, and I will reply to each and every one of you. Also, as this is the first episode, I'd love your feedback so I can provide the most value possible in these 15 minutes each week. I look forward to hearing from you. And that brings us to the end of another week of the 3B'z podcast with Stephanie. Thank you so much for listening. I'd really appreciate it if you could like, subscribe, rate and review this podcast wherever you are listening to it, so that I can reach more business owners and help them build better businesses. See you next week for the next episode.